Well, we all know that April is Daffodil Month. We are live at Union Station right now. National fundraising campaign for the Canadian Cancer Society. The money raised helps those living with cancer and their families, helps with research and awareness. So as you go through Union Station this morning, please be generous, because I am sure that someone you know or maybe yourself has been touched by cancer. Dr. Amit Oza, Director of Clinical Cancer Research at Princess Margaret, in fact, joins me right now. And I mean, that is a true statement. Years ago, I remember saying 1 in 3 were either touched by cancer, and I think the number is actually rising now.
It is. 1 in 2 Canadians in their lifetime will be diagnosed to have cancer.
1 in 2?
1 in 2, and 1 in 4 will die of cancer. So this is an incredibly high number, and that's something that we need to really factor in.
Now, while this is, I mean, it is sobering news, and it's important, it's also important to realize that we are moving forward. Even though the numbers are increasing, your chances are increasing, we are moving forward thanks to the money that goes to things like the Daffodil sales.
Absolutely. I think that the funding raised is really allowing us to sort of really start investigating and researching cancer. We're at an era where there's an unprecedented advance in knowledge in terms of how cancer works. We're sort of able to understand how cancer behaves, how it grows, what the genomic level that controls it. We're also able to sort of really start harnessing that information in terms of designing treatments that will in fact start making a difference. And cancers that were incurable a few years ago are really being overcome right now with major advances. There's a sort of major advance looking at immunotherapy, which is really pushing back the boundaries day by day at the moment. And these are sort of new treatments that were in fact something that were in very preliminary research stages 5 years ago or 10 years ago, and they're now in the clinical setting. So things are moving very, very quickly, and there's a lot more that needs to be done. We participate very actively in clinical trials, and clinical trials are the first and rigorous way in which we introduce brand new treatments to patients with cancer.
Why take so long in the clinical trials?
Because it has to be done rigorously. It has to be done with an eye to safety. Clinical trials really need to investigate a brand new treatment to try and sort of really tease out what works and what works really well. But at the same time, we want to make sure that if a treatment is toxic or has complications, that we understand that from the very get-go. That's why it takes a lot of time in terms of designing clinical trials properly and also bringing these clinical trials in a very rigorous manner to patients.
Toronto, where does it stand right now in the world as far as cancer research? Because we need to be very proud of what's happening at Princess Margaret.
So in terms of Toronto, we're one of the top 5 cancer centres in the world, and that's based on metrics related to research and research productivity. We're one of the top cancer centres that's actually at the leading edge of many of the research discoveries, particularly in programs such as genomics and immunotherapy. We're also sort of really pushing the boundaries in terms of new treatments and introducing them to clinical trials. At Princess Margaret, over 2,000 patients volunteer to go onto clinical trials every year, and about 8,000 patients are on some type of research program. And that actually positions us extremely well across the Canadian and the international landscape.
All right, cancer.ca. Find out all the information you can. And as you're walking by Princess Margaret today, or you're driving by, just glance over and just think, wow, there are incredible things happening there that will have an impact on the world. Thank you so much for being here. Appreciate
it. Thank you very much.
And for all the work that your team does at Princess Margaret and other cancer research centers as well in Canada. Let's go upstairs. Our top stories. Here's Mel.